I am Lisa Garr, and welcome to the Aware Show presents Rising Stars. Rising Stars is you, anyone who has been a part of the personal development community for a long time and learned your own ways, your own expertise on how to lift all boats. You are the rising star, the rising tide that lifts humanity. And joining me today is our wonderful rising star, Kwiatkowski. She is not only been a counselor for 35 years, but she's just recently released a brand new book called Stand in Your Brilliance. And we get to hear Kathy's story. Welcome to Rising Stars, Kathy.
Hi, Lisa. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So what I want to learn here is a little bit about what happened before the 35-year career, and then all the wonderful changes that have happened since within that career. How did you get started as a counselor in the first place?
So I actually started out as a special education teacher. I taught deaf children for 6 years. As I was doing that, I could tell that it wasn't exactly the fit for me. I felt really drawn to psychology. And so I went and got my clinical psych degree and became a counselor. Um, as I first started working in counseling, I was really focused on working with children and families, and working specifically with children in highly dysfunctional families where there were abuse issues going on for the children and in the families. And as I did that, um, some light bulbs started going off for me about my own childhood.
Mm.
It's like, wait a minute. Actually realizing things that I had experienced in my childhood could be called trauma. So I was born really low weight, low birth weight. I was a twin, but I was very small. And I also had medical issues. So I ended up being hospitalized around age 5. Back then, they don't let parents or anybody stay in your room with you. So I had birth trauma, and I had that trauma in the hospital. I also had a pretty chaotic family. I had an older brother with ADHD who kind of wreaked havoc in the family, and things were pretty unpredictable in my household.
Unstable. Yes.
Just very unpredictable. And when it's unpredictable, you're kind of always looking for what's going to happen next. So little did I know my system was being trained to be upregulated all the time. And I didn't really feel very safe in the world,
Do you
but I
think
didn't know that.
do you think that's kind of subconsciously how you attracted yourself to counseling in the first place?
It is. Now, when I first went into counseling, I was very focused on strategic therapy and cognitive therapy, which none of that gets anywhere down below here, right?
Interesting. Mm-hmm.
So, you're not really tuning into emotions as much as you would with deeper emotional therapy, emotion focused therapy. So, after about 10 years of working with kids and doing strategic family therapy, I started having these clients come in and they were emoting all over the place. And I was like, deer in the headlights, like, what do I do with this? Well, I was deer in the headlights because I had all of this emotional stuff that I hadn't figured out yet. So that was my signal that I had work to do. So I started doing my own deep emotional work. And as I did that, I opened my right hemisphere more, which gave me access to my intuition, to my spirit, to my emotions, but also to that whole other magical realm of recognizing that we are more than just these bobbing heads walking around. So,
Yes, you really got to experience, and we're going to talk about some of your other realms that you are now, certified in and teaching, which I'm fascinated in. But I'm really curious about this experience you had. You went through life and you got bumped around through life. Then you became a counselor and then had a wake-up call in the middle of that experience, and you were invited into yet a deeper meaning for your career, for your own life, for your purpose, everything.
And I can remember that feeling like such a pivotal moment. And it's also when I was at that crossroads to do that deeper work for myself and to learn how to do it for others. I remember feeling like, number one, this was going to be a huge time investment. Number two, this is going to be a huge financial investment. And it would have been so much easier to just say no to all of that and to keep doing the cognitive strategic work. And that would have been fine, but it's not really what my soul wanted me to be doing. I didn't know that at the time, but I know that now. My soul's desire was for me to expand into this other work.
So tell me how you got even interested in LBL, which is life between life therapy.
Right. So this is a fun story. Our spirit, our soul they're so creative in terms of how they bring things to you. So I became aware of metaphysical things through different friends that I developed. The one was a gal 15 years younger than me, whose daughter was friends with my daughter. And she was just adamant that we needed to do things together. And I kept thinking, why? We're not even the same age, da 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 da. Well, we ended up becoming very best friends. She's a psychic. She introduced me to going to the I Can Do It conference where I learned about mediumship and psychics. And at that conference, I did 2 past life regressions, one with Brian Weiss and one with Denise Lynn. And they were just so powerful. And I instantly was like, oh my gosh, what would this do to my clinical work if I could help people do this? So that was the first thing that got me open to it. And then the LBL work, I had another friend who was the mother, her son was a friend with my daughter. She was a neighbor. And I love talking about her because she's a scientist. She's like hardcore scientist, down to the bone, logical. And she was reading Michael Newton's Journey of Souls and told me about it. And her and I went together to do our own LBL regression. And we're sitting there in the office with the LBL hypnotherapist. And, the message came through, you're supposed to do this. And I'm like, no way, I'm not doing this. But
I shared with you, I had a similar session with John Newton himself, and he was doing past life regression at the time. And this was a long, long time ago. This was probably 20, 25 years ago. And I remember leaving there and I got that same message that I'm supposed to be doing something and I had done it several lifetimes prior to this, that broadcasts information, that communicates information that changes people's lives and inspires positive growth and change. And I remember that line coming through specifically, communicates information that inspires positive growth and change. And that rang through my head over and over again. It's very powerful therapy. And I know you've done a lot more research than I've only had a couple sessions. How does it work? Does it access your unconscious mind? Is it really a past life? Is it a little of both?
Well, that's a great question. The Michael Newton research talks about how where you're going to is what they call your super conscious mind. So in your subconscious mind, you can carry memories from past lives, but your superconscious mind is an even more expanded place of consciousness where you access the spiritual realm. And then if you overlay the quantum thinking on it, quantum says that, there's all of these different realms and you just go through the portal to that realm. Like it's all happening in present time. So
yes, I believe that because I went through a whole near-death experience around this, but you came from a traditional counseling background of 30 years, 30 plus years, where you didn't necessarily practice or believe this, but now this is your entire world. And the pivot that you've done within your career, and mostly the pivot you've done within yourself, how has that changed your life? Not necessarily professional life, but your daily life.
Oh my gosh. I don't even, there's so many layers to how it has changed my personal life. My physical health. I mean, I'm going to be 67 years old.
Ah,
There's no way I feel that old. I feel like I'm 47 years old.
great.
I mean, so much energy and vitality. Um, my nervous system now is calm and regulated, which also impacts your sense of vitality and energy. How I live my life is completely different. I do all kinds of, I mean, I do yoga and qigong and energy practices and meditation. I do all of those things every day.
Mm.
And the my relation, it's hard to explain what it does to relationships, but your whole vibration changes. You carry a whole different energy with you as the things that were weighing you down start to release and kind of peel away, and you're more connected to your true essence and your true energy field. People just feel that, and interactions go more smoothly. Now, does that mean that I never have any difficulties? No. But if I do have like an interpersonal interaction that's dissatisfying or unnerving in any way, I recover so much more quickly. Um,
Mm. Mm.
you know, the trap into your own inner critic. It's like the inner critic just doesn't have the same power that they used to have, right?
Yes. No, I mean, that's phenomenal. That now I'm curious about the difference between, and by the way, I called him John Newton. It's Michael Newton. Sorry.
Right.
And the difference between past life regression and life between life therapy. What's the difference
Okay,
between?
so past life regression is, as the name says, you're traveling to an incarnation in another human body in another time. Could be another country, could be another century. It's a human existence in another time, right? Life between lives regression, you're actually traveling to the spiritual realm. So the access to that generally is you go to a past life, and then I guide you to the end of that past life where you see yourself die, and then you cross over. Now, some people, when we go to do a life between lives regression, they don't go to a past life. They just go straight to the spirit realm. So
Interesting.
and we're like, oh, okay, well, we'll do it this way. So that's the difference between that. And you had mentioned what happened for you in your LBL session. I just want to say that's what's so fulfilling about doing those sessions is the information that comes through for people, and it comes directly to them. That's another distinction. You can go to a psychic who will channel for you or give you messages that they're receiving on your behalf. But in an LBL regression, the information is coming to you directly.
Yes. And the fascinating thing about all of this is, as I mentioned at the very beginning of the show, there's more than one way to heal. Is more than one path to your own truth. And you don't even necessarily have to believe that there's a lifetime after or before or in reincarnation, none of that. All you have to know is what frees you and what set your authentic truth free. And
Absolutely. And that's the other part of your question is, you know, um, what if somebody doesn't believe in past lives? Is that really a past life, or is it your subconscious mind? And you know what? Does it matter if What you get from it is clarity. Usually you get this very visceral feeling and deep knowing that what's coming through, whether it's metaphor from your subconscious mind or reality of a past life, what matters is how it feels to you and the clarity that it gives you. Now, I will tell you that your soul speaks to you in this process. I have no doubt whatsoever that that's exactly how it works. But if you can't know that until you experience it. And the mind might jump in and go, oh, I'm just making this up, or this isn't real, or whatever.
Really, because you're in such a deep state of kind of hypnosis that you feel that you're speaking. You're the one that's giving the information, and then it's recorded. When you listen to it later, you don't remember at all that you said those things, but it makes so much sense. You remember the imprint that it felt like when you come to consciousness and really unpack the session and say, oh, wow, this is really meaningful to me. I've always been a performer. I've always been a, truth seer or something like that, depending on what you do in your life. I've always been a leader, like those types of things. You can see why you're doing the same things over and over again, and what patterns are repeating that either end the life or that your complaints are about in those past lives. And if you're still repeating those patterns, newsflash, you might be wanting to look at something like that. And that's the benefit of this. So this has got to be so much more fulfilling for you. And tell me about the book. You wrote Stand in Your Brilliance. Tell me about the story of the book.
So the book, well, first off, it was a transformative experience for me to write it, because basically I sat down and tried to put all that I've done and learned into something that could be, it's like a roadmap, right? That could be a roadmap to how to release the things that are weighing you down, troubling you, keeping you stuck, and really have a magical life. So taking all of those years and kind of deciding what do I want to include? What are the key elements? And the process itself was guided. Every time that I went to go write, I stopped and I opened to my own spirit to get guidance on what's important to put in this book. I throughout the book is are bits and pieces about my journey where it seems relevant. And so it's a little autobiographical, and just kind of summarizes a lot of the psychological, metaphysical, energy medicine, embodiment practices that I have found to be most empowering. And then more than anything, it's a reminder to everybody that you are never alone. Because, my trauma in childhood was, I felt kind of alone and on my own. And so I have two key things that I'm passionate for people to know. One is you're never actually alone. Your soul is always with you, your higher self, spirit, source, always with you. And two, you are already whole and complete. And if you don't feel that way, it's just that there's things in the way. And if you get those things out of the way, you will know beyond any shadow of the doubt that you are whole and complete. And all of those critical messages, they're irrelevant. They're not who you are.
That's a beautiful goal for you to have in the book, for people to understand that they're not alone. And the book, I love how it also takes people on the move from the mental to the physical, to the emotional, to the energetic. And it's kind of follows your path of evolution to go from anyone who might be in that space of being very heady about something, and then going to maybe the physical part of it where you feel it in your body, and then the emotional part of it where you start to resolve it, and ultimately the energetic part of it where everything is connected. And you personally went through that journey. Your book follows that journey, and anyone following along can also see that same level of evolution when they're reading the book. Or maybe you've gone through that same experience in your life and you went from, mental, very heady experience to something that you can't even understand or explain, but you would never go back, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I love the way that you just put that. Every once in a while I pause and I go, wow, I cannot believe I actually ended up here, given where I was in terms of how I went through the world. I would just analyze everything, cognitive reframing. I would cognitively reframe till the cows came home, but don't give me a feeling to feel. Ooh, that's scary. But that made sense. It wasn't safe to have emotions in my family. I just really learned how to cut that part of myself off. So, when you first open up to the magical realm of your right hemisphere, it can be pretty scary, but oh my gosh, life is so much more joy-filled and magical when you are using all of who you are, all of your brain.
Yes. Well, it's true that you were not safe to feel. It was not safe to feel in your household, and it was not safe to be in those feelings. It was too painful. And the way to heal and recover from that is just don't jump into your feelings. The bridge is the physical,
Yeah.
right? And now, when you say the physical, do you mean pain, or do you mean the physical, visceral feeling of the emotions?
Well, kind of all of it. So, doing yoga was critical, because that steadied my mind and gave me a way to feel in my body while I was opening. So it's that combination of grounding and opening. Breath practices were a big part of that, and getting more literally in my body than, and you mentioned John Newton, gave me the ability to do like John Newton's process, right? Where you're literally just focusing on sensation in your body and opening up to it. Now, in the psychology world, they call it somatic experiencing. And, just holding space for people while they move into their body and allow themselves to start to feel things that maybe they haven't felt for a long time. All three of the trauma therapies I do are body based. They all have a body component to them.
Well, what I really love is that not only have you done this book, but you've also put together a course that contains 7 modules that can walk people through this experience through, Kathy, who's a very experienced, trained counselor and facilitator of these energetic components, and a healer, really takes you through these modules. Can you tell us a little bit about this?
It really follows very much from the book, except it includes practices. So, it's learning concepts, but then also having a chance to do Q&A and get some personal feedback about what you're struggling with, some very specific ideas for how to work with those things, and then embodiment practices as part of each module. So it covers the mental, right? So emotional regulation and clearing away those limiting beliefs. And then subconscious, hypnosis, past life regression,
Wow.
between lives. There's a module on quantum. And then there's a module on embodiment and how to, once we expand out, and we connect to the fullness of who we are, we got to make sure we stay anchored.
Yes,
So
yes,
we don't
please,
just go
please.
flying away.
Stay in this body. Yes, yes. I know those who have done that. So there's a way to access this. If you go to theawareshow.com/Kathy, you can look at the course. It's 7 modules that follows the book. stand in your brilliance. And it's all the way from basically following Kathy's journey. And I know those listening have identified with your journey, that go from that headiness, that first module, which is your beliefs, you're identifying the beliefs, then getting into the body and the nervous system, then all the triggers, but follow up by with systems like EMDR and different types of healing systems and hypnosis and subconscious life between life therapy. And then you can experience all of that through this course. And this is an incredible opportunity for people to really get the true healing from a trained professional, and then really to integrate everything at the end, which I also appreciate, because after you've done this deep work, now how long is that course? How long does it take someone to go through that type of evolution? That's a lot.
It really depends on the person, right? I mean, each module, there's a lot to work with. And so, whether it happens right in the moment or whether it kind of builds on each other, for everyone, everybody's system is different in terms of what they need and what's going to be most helpful. What I will say is that in specifically the last 5 years, what's become clear to me is that I'm really meant to be working with people who they know who they are beyond being human. They know that they have a soul, that they have a spirit. They know that they have wonderful gifts to give to the world, but they're feeling somehow blocked with that. Like they know they have brilliance, but they're just, there's one more thing needed to like bust out and really bring this to the world, which will change humanity, right? As every single one of us does this. So my biggest joy is working with other light workers, healers, Reiki masters, other coaches to do whatever piece. It's my mentoring, right? So whichever piece of the whole menu feels like, you know what, I think I need a little tweak here or a little tweak there. That is my biggest joy.
I love that you're doing the same thing that Rising Stars is doing, is you're basically encouraging people of their brilliance, encouraging people of their capable self, and just helping lift people so that they can walk in their true authentic life. And
Yeah.
the more of us that do this, it's not always easy based on past programming and all these belief systems and so forth that we're stacked on top of every day. It's just so nice to have someone help hold you and lift you. We all need that. Doing it on your own is challenging because you get stuck in your story and you're complaining and all of that. But having somebody really lift you and remind you of your brilliance and help you see your own capability, just as you have done through your journey and through your own guidance. I love that you're helping other people. That's wonderful. So again, you can go to the website, which is theawareshow.com/Kathy, and you can look at the 7-module program there. Also, you can get her book, Stand in Your Brilliance, from Amazon. And is there anything that you would like to just leave our audience with, our rising stars with, to share?
Oh, I'm so glad you do what you do, Lisa. We are doing, there are huge transformations happening. And I think as we just stay in the vibration of that and choose to hang out there and connect with other like-minded people, we keep the momentum going. And I guess if there's one other thing, it would be, sometimes when we start getting into this stuff, we start feeling real, and maybe our whole lives, we've just felt different than other people. Like, I'm just kind of not in the same place as people are, and I don't know why.
So true.
And I would say if you're one of those people, you're at home now, right?
That is a great thing to say. Yes, yes. You're not alone. And if you felt a little like you didn't fit in your whole life, you do here.
Yeah, when I work with people individually, I always encourage them to do the Enneagram, if you're aware of that.
It's like
And
a personality profiling system.
right. And one of the typologies of the Enneagram, the individualist, really they're known for they felt like they've never really belonged anywhere. Well, I find that so many of the individualists are actually the light workers on our planet. That's why they feel
Well,
that.
yes, because they've been on an island themselves figuring it out. So yes,
Right.
it's about time we get off the island, get onto other islands where there's other light workers, and then lift all the tides. That's
Yeah.
my vision for humanity as well. So I share that with you, Kathy. Well, it's been such a pleasure to get to know you and to work with you as a with your story coaching and all of it. I'm really grateful that you walked into my life, and thank you so much for all that you're doing to inspire and lift others. Thank you, Kathy. And go ahead. You want to say?
I was just going to say thank you and you're welcome. And yeah.
All good stuff. All right. Well, next time you can also check it out, the website, theawareshow.com/Kathy. And until next time, I invite you to stay aware.